Welcome to the We Are Change talk show. We have a lot to cover this episode. First off, talk show host Alex Jones has had his YouTube, Facebook and Apple accounts terminated. What does this mean for the truth community? Well, the future is very uncertain, as this is an all-out attack on free speech. We'll be talking more about censorship later on in the program, but now let's cross over to an interview with Glenn, a victim of a microchip implant.
So to have a foreign device implanted into yourself, it's very intrusive, it's devastating. So tell me about how this has affected your life over the years.
Well, for a long time it just sent me spiraling backwards. I mean, to have this, you know, there's been so many bizarre things happen to me, you know, like, and it's, people have sort of worked at me like, it's as if to try and make me crazy, right? And so for a long time I went down a bad path. Ever since I came out of that hospital, just things have never been the same, and it's taken me a lot of years to come forward and talk about this, because I just wasn't exactly sure what it was that was happening to me. But I think there's enough information out there now that I can safely say that it would appear that there's use of some sort of sound waves or something like that, like as far as electronic harassment.
You believe there's been invasive sound wave technology that's been interfering with your mental focus?
Yeah, it has, and it happens, well, now it happens nightly, and I mean, to me it seems pretty obvious. It's the way I say it, it's like I guess how you'd make a computer program to run like a video game, in that you're just in the deep of your sleep, you have these very specific dreams. Times when I've seen, like, there was a time at the Sandringham Hotel where there was a body or what appeared to be a body covered by a sheet sitting in a rubbish bin, and the next day there was a guy that I know, he was just down the beach, like, burning some stuff. There's been another time when, you know, I appeared to see someone get shot right in front of my eyes in broad daylight. There was another occasion where I was led to the Black Saturday Memorial out at Strathurn, where it appeared to be two freshly dug graves in the ground just right there. It's cost, for what I can say, it's cost my two best friends their lives as well, as I believe they're victims of this. That's
shocking.
And it's also, my son has, he contracted Listeria meningitis at birth, but I believe this happened to him intentionally, that somebody actually got to him and poisoned him, and he's had 32 brain operations now. And about November 2016 he went in to have another operation which nearly cost him his life. But
sorry to hear that.
I remember as I've gone to say goodbye to him, like they've gone to put him out, I walked past one of the nurses, and the nurses just mumbled something to me which I took as a threat. So I think this task force group, they're very well connected, and they just palm me off as some idiot, and that's how they get away with it. Twice now over the years I've sent letters to the Commissioner, Graham Ashton.
Yep.
And nobody's ever bothered dealing with anything that I've had to say. And
shocking. So do you believe it was the government that applied this invasive use of technology to not only monitor you but interfere with your mental focus?
Do you think the government would do this? I don't think so. I used to work for some fairly well connected and high up members of Melbourne's underworld. As I said, my ex-brother-in-law is a senior Victorian police officer, so is his wife, and so I think it was more I'm not sure how they came to do it, but it's something they've come up with, and something that I now believe that they actually make money out of, and it's turned into a game of murder. As I said, like, to sit here now in front of the camera, I can't reel off all the things that I've seen and that, but it's kind of like if they put maybe like 20 murders in front of me, and maybe those murders didn't actually happen, but maybe one of them did, and then in 20 years time they're going to come back and try and cold case me or something like that to try and frame me for something I haven't done. I hadn't had the courage to speak up now and highlight my peculiar behaviour over the years and try and stitch me up that way. So
It's a very frightening thought. Have you got any memory of this device being implanted into yourself?
well, there is actually three occasions that I believe that something was done to me. There was the first time when I was hospitalised in Adelaide. There was another time when I was working, again I won't name the company right now, but I was just a new employee at the company, and the supervisor just came up to me one afternoon and he asked me if I'd like to be, he needed 3 volunteers to be part of an experiment where they implanted something into me, and I don't know, foolishly I just said yes, not thinking about it at the time or whatever. But, and again, like, you know, I know there's a lot of conspiracy theory and all of that, but you know what, as I sit here now, I can honestly say that, you know, something has been done to me, and I feel totally violated. It's like every time I go to sleep at night, I feel like I'm getting raped, you know?
It's like your own thoughts are not your own at all. They're being controlled by an outside source, and for many that would be very alarming and very hard to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Again, talk us through some of the symptoms. You hear voices and you also see visions, don't you, Glenn?
It's just when, like I said, when you're asleep, it's like you have these most peculiar dreams and stuff. As far as the visions, well, I'm a spiritual man, and I've got, you know, there are people that will verify, like, they've actually been in my presence and they've seen sort of spiritual stuff. So, you know, I don't know how, I'm not 100% sure of the capabilities of this technology and how, so some of the stuff that I have seen over time, maybe it was a spiritual thing, or maybe it was something else. Maybe, and for that part, I can't really answer, you know, because I've come to realise that this technology and what it can actually do to your mind at times, it's pretty, well, you know, it's pretty amazing.
Yes, and
It's
very scary.
It's disgusting and interesting at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. So, have you gone to a doctor and applied to have an X-ray taken? Have you made any claims to state this and have that followed up on?
You know, there's been 2 occasions where I've been to 2 doctors and I asked them for help. The first one was my regular doctor, and there was actually a fax sitting on his table with a Victoria Police letterhead implying that he may be sent out of the country. And I asked my doctor for help, and he broke down in tears and he said he couldn't help me, which, if you knew my doctor, that was really strange behaviour. So I feel like somebody was pressuring him then. And there was another doctor that I went and saw, and he simply said to me, he said, no, everything that's happening to you, it's just an illusion, as if to say it's happening but it's not happening. And again, the word illusion, it's just something familiar that strikes me as somebody had lent on this guy, basically. So
Very, very sad story. And the government can use this as a way to track people and monitor their behaviour and movements, can't they, Glenn?
I guess it would have the capability for that. Again, I'm not going to go so far as to say that it's the government doing it to me, because, you know, I'm a real patriot, and I think, if I think of the guys in Gallipoli jumping out of the trenches and, you know, walking into certain death, if they could see now what was happening to me, if it was the government doing that to me, I'm pretty sure the boys would have just said, you know what, I'm going to stay in the trench today if this is what I'm fighting for. So yeah, I'm going to step away from saying it's the government. I'm just going to say this is a profit-making hate crime. I won't call it gang stalking, because if, according to Victoria Police, gang stalking doesn't exist, and there's nothing in the legislation to prevent gang stalking. So they're actually aware of it, yet they say it doesn't exist, and they actually they'll say there's nothing in the legislation against it. Well, how can there be something in the legislation against something that doesn't exist? So I won't say it's gang stalking, I will say it is a hate crime, and the perpetrators, I mean, simply for what they've done to me, I mean, they've taken away 15, 16 years of my life.
Now, we know there's a transhumanism agenda where the globalists want to push mankind to merge with technology. What would you say to the government pushing these RFID chips, Glenn?
Just it takes away every freedom and every bit about who you are and the way God intended us to be. You know, so to think, I mean, I'd be absolutely heartbroken and devastated if I found out the government were employing these sort of tactics. As I said, I'm an innocent man. I've done nothing. To have it happen to me, you know, like, well, to have it happen to anyone, it's just, yeah, it's just absolutely disgusting. And I fear that by not speaking up, because again, like, this isn't just happened to me, it must have happened to other people, but obviously then people straight away have their mental health and everything questioned, and that's why they're too scared to speak up. But if I don't say anything, then how far will the technology go?
Well, that brings us to an end of another episode, folks. I will continue bringing you these stories here at We Are Change Melbourne until my freedom of speech is silenced. So we hope that doesn't happen. Tune in next week to the We Are Change talk show, if I'm still here, where I'll be exposing corruption, one episode at a time. Are you tired of hearing lies and fake news on mainstream media? Do you find it insulting to your intelligence? Well, look no further. The We Are Change talk show is here. President Trump has launched airstrikes on Syria. A lot of his prominent conservative supporters have turned against him after this action. Have you suffered human rights violations or been a victim of corruption? The We Are Change talk show would like to hear about it. Phone the number on your screen today.
Who the hell's going to listen to a little guy? You guys are, thanks.
Yes, it's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And what I hope is they don't put a mother and a child in the house, because that child will die. And no one seems to believe me.
Once again, much love to everybody at We Are Change, and I look forward to seeing you guys at more events in the future and working more closely with you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for the call, my friend, and all the best of luck moving into the future.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. You know, the legendary Jeff.
Without the instrument of We Are Change, we will not have a future. We will not have a country or world to leave to our children. We won't have children able to function in it. So be a part of it. Join it.
We Are Change Melbourne gives those who mainstream media have ignored a voice, exposing corruption, injustice, human rights issues, and much more. We Are Change Melbourne is the voice of the people.
Yeah, this is Jeff. Met Jeff for the first time I'd met Jeff. He too is a lovely chap, and he has a YouTube channel called We Are Change Melbourne. So if any of these topics pique your interest, pop over to We Are Change Melbourne and say good day to Jeff. You've seen that video that's just going past the interview, Enough is Enough. Watch that one.
Phone the number on your screen and be connected with the We Are Change talk show.